Is this the most important weekend of the Maple Leaf schedule? You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. Thank you for making us your daily listen, and thank you for making the Locked On Network the number one sports network, podcasting network in North America. What's happening, Dave? How we feeling on a Friday? It's Black Friday. You getting any shopping done?
A little bit. Don't want to go too crazy. I'm going to go hopefully check out that pop-up store that MLSC is doing. See if there's any deals, anything I can buy for Christmas gifts there.
Nice. Yeah, actually, I forgot that probably would be a good time to get down there and see if they got any nice deals, some jerseys or T-shirts or sweaters to get some friends and family members, That'd be nice. That's actually a good idea. I should think about that. Also, take a look at doing that. Should the Maple Leafs be going Black Friday shopping today? Should they be picking up the phone and trying to go and buy some new help at some point? You think, Dave?
Buying? I think they might be more on I think people are going to be looking at them and see what they want to give up rather than sell.
What? You think the team's selling already? You think that they're closer to selling than buying?
I think there's a few players that are going to be looking at the move for sure. Still hearing people talk about Brandon Carlo and how, we know that they were shopping him in the off season.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't be surprised if teams come calling and seeing if there's a possibility that the Leafs might want to move from him.
Ooh,
would be pennies on the dollar type of selling, by the way.
Well, like a Black Friday sale. There's a Black Friday sale on Brandon Carlo. Come get him, right? Early morning. What do they call it? Door crasher? A door crasher sale on Brandon Carlo. Probably a door crasher sale on Max Domi too. If someone wants to come and get Max Domi, I'm sure that's a player that the Maple Leafs wouldn't mind. Moving. It sounds like he's going to be a healthy scratch for tonight's game against Washington. We'll get into that when we tee up the game. But that's a big story. Max Domi expected to be a healthy scratch. I mean, the guy makes a big chunk of money and is supposed to be, one of the secondary offensive players for this team, and he might be spending the night in the press box. But I want to look at this weekend's back-to-back from a kind of a big picture standpoint, Dave. They're in Washington tonight, in Pittsburgh tomorrow. So you got, the OV Crosby back-to-back. But I think this is legitimately the most important kind of set of games on the Maple Leaf schedule. I truly believe that. I think the Maple Leafs are kind of in tough where they've put themselves in such a hole to this point in the season where they got to start picking up wins left, right, and center. And the issue is both of those teams that they're playing are above them in the standings. So they got to pick up points against them and not allow anything. So it's not like they can allow, go to overtime like they did with Columbus and give Columbus a point, a team that, again, is above them in the standings. They got to try and win these games in regulation and get the full 2 points and not allow Pittsburgh or Washington to get any. Because, again, entering tonight's game against Washington, who currently sits third in the Metro with 28 points, Toronto's got 23 points. So they're 5 back of them and 4 back of Pittsburgh, who currently owns a second wild card position. So you got to try and and close that gap, and you got to do it against both of these teams. I think it's a super, super important weekend for the Buds here.
Yeah, I mean, they got to start looking more and more like the team that we know or we expect them to be, right? And I think that's the big part is getting wins. Crucial, but also start to look a little more like you're supposed to. And I think that's been something missing from this Leafs team is you just haven't looked as dominant, right? And that's going to be a problem if they can't figure that out, soon, right? Especially with players coming back, like you give them a bit of time to get into the swing of things. But eventually, yeah, you're gonna have to, get your form, because even against Columbus, that was a game that Joseph Bowl stole for them, right?
Yeah.
So
100%. And probably going to have to continue to do that if the Leafs are going to play the same way. And they're not going to have. I didn't see who was in the starters net today. I guess practice is probably going to be within the next hour or so. So maybe by the time we finish up, we should maybe see who's in the starters net for tonight's game. I'm curious as to who you would start in Washington versus Pittsburgh. I probably would go Wool tonight in Washington. Yeah. And then go Hildeby in Pittsburgh tomorrow. It's probably where I would go, just because I think Washington's the better team. They're playing better. You want to give yourself a better chance to win in that game. That would be the way I would split the goalies up this weekend.
Probably would be how I would do it too. Washington's really picked up lately. I think they won their last 2 straight. Ovi's starting to put the puck in the net more regularly now.
7 goals his last 9 games or something like that, and had a hat trick last week against Montreal, and I think they've got 5 wins in the last 6 or something like that. They're starting to pick it back up, man. They're starting to pick it up. So tonight's not going to be a cakewalk.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think they've got they're top 5 in goals for in the league. I
think they've got 30 goals in their last 6 games. They've just been scoring at an abnormal rate recently. So yeah, they've rocketed right up into top 5 in goals for. They've got 80 goals on the season. Is that top in the? That is
top
second in the East,
I think.
Yeah, tied for first in the East at the very least, and then I think it's 5th in the 5th league wide, but tied for first in the East. So it's a team that can score, and that's kind of been an issue for Toronto, is not suppressing offense enough, and Wool's going to have to be just as good as he was in Columbus tonight, I think, for them to pull out the win. And like I said, much needed wins. It's getting to a point now where we're past American Thanksgiving officially. The team's still in a 500 hockey club. Got to start stacking wins against teams who are above you in the standings. Can't let them pick up a single point or 2 points. Would be outrageous. I truly believe that if they, worst case scenario for this team, right? They lose tonight, they lose tomorrow in regulation. There's going to be some tough conversations on Monday. Some really tough conversations on Monday of whether or not they try to continue to build for this season, or if some serious retooling of some kind needs to happen, whether that's a coach, whether that's a sizable trade to shake things up. This is a pivotal weekend for the Maple Leafs. If they win both games, I think they're set. I think you can sit there and say, okay, this team is kind of forming into shape. They've won 3 in a row. They're getting healthy. They've got goaltending. Hopefully Matthews factors into these games. You can look at it from a positive lens if they can go and get the sweep in Washington, Pittsburgh. Yeah. But if it's the opposite and they get swept and they come away with 0 points this weekend and go 0-2, I really do believe that we'll be we'll be talking about some pretty negative things on Monday. Some big changes to come for Monday.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is they're not going to be the only team selling. We've already seen Nashville. They look like they're going to be open for business pretty soon.
Vancouver's open for business. St. Louis.
So as much as you want to say, oh yeah, you can strip it down or get rid of some players that are not performing right, you got to also you have to still think about the fact that you're not going to be the only ones in that market trying to move players, right? And so there's competition in that area too.
Yeah. And keep in mind that you don't have your first round pick either, unless you somehow literally bottom out and end up with a top.
I know. I've already seen the Bruins fans saying, thank you for the gift.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Hey, if they can win the weekend, if they can go 2-0 or pick up, 3 or 4 points this weekend, I think they'll be in good shape. But if they don't, That's going to be an interesting show on Monday, to say the least. Let's take a break. Let's come back and tee up each game. We'll start tonight in Washington and the Maple Leafs. New power play. We'll talk about that. That's next on the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. The NHL is back. There's no better place to get in on the action than with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the Locked On Network. Even if you miss the start of a game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who's going to score the next goal to third period comebacks. Plus, you can even combine live bets in your same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving customers, their new customers, $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game of FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the Locked On Network. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morassutti with you, as we are each and every weekday, Monday through Friday, with brand new episodes of the Locked On Leafs podcast, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Audio-wise, you can also find us on YouTube as well. The Maple Leafs back in action tonight. It's a back-to-back. They've got Washington and then Pittsburgh. So they're right on the road. Tough back-to-back. You got to deal with Ovi tonight and Sid tomorrow. Washington's caught fire lately here, Dave. This is a team that's starting to put the puck in the back of the net. It's a team that is winning a lot, and they've got a red-hot Alex Ovechkin as well. What are you expecting in tonight's game?
I mean, it's going to be tough. The Leafs and Capitals have had some pretty even matchups.
Mm-hmm.
I remember last year, they played around this time last year against each other in Washington, and that was the John Tavares game where he won it in overtime.
Right.
Washington's just a team that's, they've retooled kind of perfectly in a lot of ways. They've got, the right balance of veterans and then young guys who are stepping up, right? And they've made some decent moves. They found their goaltender, Logan Thompson. That's a team that you can't take obviously too lightly. And I'm curious to see if the Leafs will be able defensively to be able to handle what will be coming their way for against Washington.
You know who leads the Washington Capitals in goals and points?
Goals and points. It's not Tom Wilson.
No, it is Tom Wilson.
Is it Tom Wilson, actually?
Tom Wilson actually leads with 12 goals and 24 points. He is your leader in both goals and points. Now, Ovi's right behind him with 11 goals and 22 points, so it's not like he's running away with it there. But, Tom Wilson off to a heck of a start. Tom Wilson, feel like he's going to factor in tonight. The Maple Leafs have to have an answer for Tom Wilson. And again, we talk about how this team has been very lackadaisical in their own end. It's been a bit of a country club for the opposition. They've really had their way in front of the net. They got to do a good job of clearing him out. They got to do that to the best of their ability because that's a big boy that'll be standing in front of the goaltender. Got to make sure that you clear that guy out of the net. But who's been a really good story this season, someone who I don't think is getting enough attention for how great of a season he's having there, Jakob Chychrun. Having an
he's been a phenomenal addition when they traded. It was Nick Jensen and a pick.
Yeah. Nick Jensen a pick to the Ottawa Senators. So the Sens gifting Jakob Chychrun over to Washington. He signs a long-term deal there. And, of course, last year, we know the Cinderella season that the Capitals had in year one of that contract with Washington. And then here he is, his second full season with the Capitals, 24 games in. He's got 9 goals, 22 points from the blue line. And he's put himself onto international radar. It's interesting. He's a dual citizen. I don't recall, who do you play for in – is he part of Team USA or Team Canada? I think USA, actually.
I think he was Team USA.
I think he played for USA in the juniors, if I'm not mistaken. But he might be putting himself on the radar of Olympic hockey. I think his allegiance as of now is with Team
Well,
USA.
under 18s, he was with Canada. He didn't play for anyone in the World Juniors.
Really interesting. He didn't make a World Junior team,
But
okay.
he played his junior hockey in Canada. So Sarnia.
Yeah.
Actually,
he was born in Boca Raton, Florida.
Yeah, he played his
dual citizen.
Yeah, I guess you call it midget hockey in I don't know what they call that anymore. I know they got rid of that term in the States. So but he did come up and
challenged hockey. Vertically challenged hockey, Dave. That's what we call it. Okay. Vertically challenged hockey.
Yeah. So I mean, it's funny because he's never played in like a world championship or anything.
Yeah, like just not a whole lot of international experience. But he's putting himself. That's why it's funny. It's like I don't really know what team he would be an allegiance with, but either USA, Canada, whoever wants him, he should be on the radar because he's been one of the best defensemen. I think FanDuel has him up near the top in Norris voting. So. Or Norris trophy odds. He's been unbelievable. So again, another player. It's not just offensively too. He's been a beast defensively as well. So that's just another guy Toronto's going to have to deal with tomorrow night. So the Leafs are going to be in tough. Like that's a good team over in Washington. Did you hear about the Dylan Strome story, by the way, really quickly last week?
No.
So I filled in on First Up, TSN 1050's morning show yesterday, and we had Dylan Strome on the show actually. And so last week
with his wife giving birth, that's right.
Yes, last week his wife gave birth to their third daughter. So congrats to the Strome family. And so I think she went to labor early, like super early. They weren't expecting her to go into labor like that. And when he left for the game, I guess it was the one road game that they had to in like an 15-day stretch or something like that. So he was pretty much at home every single day except for this one day. And prior to the game, on his way to the rink, he called his wife, checked in. Hey, how you doing? She said, "Oh, I'm good, feeling good. Doesn't feel like today's the day." All right, great. We'll catch you tonight, right? Flight back home tonight. I'll see you later. And then I guess at some point during warm-ups for the first period, she ended up going into labor. It was a quick process, and like midway through the first period, I think she ends up giving birth, and he finds out, in the middle of the period, basically, or in right before the game or something like that. And so in the middle of the game, he became a father, and then came out afterwards and told people. But it was funny. He was telling us, he was like, I was just so excited when I found out mid-game. He vividly remembers during like a power play leaning over to the ref and being like, "Hey, I just became a dad." He's like, "I just had to tell someone." So I leaned over to the ref and just told him in the middle of the game. And he's like, "What? Like a couple days ago?" He's like, "Nah, like 18 minutes ago." It's like, oh, geez. And he ended up getting the bird back, and it's all good. So maybe Dylan Strome, you get the new child, the sleep schedule changes a little bit. So perhaps,
or you get the new dad bump.
Yeah, he did have 3 assists that night, by the way.
He did. He had. I think Ovi said he was a man possessed. I'm like, yeah, I think he had a little extra.
Yeah, that new dad strength. That's what they always call it, right? That new dad strength. So that was the night Ovi had a hat trick. Strome had 3 points and welcomed his third daughter as well into the world. And so that was just a cool story. Good night for them, and a good Toronto boy who seems to have success against Toronto, just like most Torontonians do. So that was just a cool story that I want to share. But yeah, it's gonna be a tough game. Tough matchup. And I'm surprised. Just taking a look at the Maple Leafs. Let's take a look at the Leafs projected lineup for tonight. And I'll explain kind of there's a couple differences from the lineup we saw in Columbus. One major difference at the very least from Columbus. So the projected lineup for tonight: Auston Matthews with Matthew Nyes and Nick Robertson. So Nicky Bobby, top 6. Nicky Bobby stays in the top 6. Easton Cowan, John Tavares, and Nylander. So that line remains intact as they should. Dakota Joshua checking back in after sitting in the press box against Columbus. Nick Waugh and Bobby McMahon rounding out the third line, and then Lawrence Lawton and Callie Yarncroc is the fourth line, and then defensively you got Waugh, OEL, Benoit McCabe, Murmy Stetcher, and we're projecting Joseph Woll starts in net tonight. But I guess were you surprised to see that the Maple Leafs tinkered with a winning lineup? So Joshua goes in, and it looks like Max Domi appears to be the odd man out and will not play in tonight's game. So are you surprised based on the fact that they won a game and still tinkered with the lines, or did you kind of expect this?
I expected it. I just felt that even though they won the game, there were still guys not pulling their weight in this game. Mm-hmm. And so I think this was kind of coming in terms of, certain lines played well, like that Cowan, Tavares, Nylander line. There was no way you were changing that line. But the rest of the line, I just didn't see. They just kind of lacked a little bit, right? So, will Dakota Joshua make a huge impact? I'm not sure, but you just talked about Tom Wilson.
Yeah, you need some size out there.
You need some size in that lineup, and I mean, Dakota Joshua hasn't necessarily been a physical presence in terms of deterring some of the bigger guys, but you need it because you know that Tom Wilson's going to want to get into something with someone, right? So you let that be a reason why you have Dakota Joshua in the lineup, because nobody else. Like, I'm not expecting Bobby McMahon to have to constantly be the guy to step up in these situations.
No, they need someone else to kind of get in there and do a little bit of the dirty work. So I guess it's just the fact that, messing with a winning lineup, I suppose, kind of surprised me. Like, maybe you wait till the second night of a back-to-back to get, new fresh legs out there as opposed to the first night. That's just where my mind was coming from. But I think the Tom Wilson wanting to have size out there is probably trumps that, though, and which is the reason why we have Joshua coming in and Domi coming out. And that's that. Honestly, Domi deserves to come out of the lineup, though. Like, let's be honest. He's been atrocious. He's been terrible. And the lone goal that they allowed in Columbus was kind of basically Domi just making a weak play, turnover, giveaway in the offensive end, and it turns the puck over, and they're able to go down and score, right? Like that. Domi can't make those plays. He's got to be sharp and crisp, and maybe a night in the press box will be a good reset for him, because he hasn't been very good this season, Dave.
No, he hasn't, and that's, again, you're looking at this team and you're trying to figure out what exactly hasn't worked this year. Max Domi hasn't worked, right? Yeah. So, again, if you're not going to be a factor offensively, you can't be a liability defensively. They need to drill that into these guys. And by sitting a guy like Michelli and Domi, that's essential. And also having Joshua sit out. Like, those are the messages you got to start sending. Because I don't think Max Domi has been scratched this year. And this will be the first time he's been scratched. So, you got to start sending messages in any way you can.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I'm with you on that one. I'm definitely with you. All right, let's take a break. Let's come back. Let's tee up the game against Pittsburgh and talk a little bit about the different power play look that the Maple Leafs will be throwing out there tonight and tomorrow. So we'll get into that next here in the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
Today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast is brought to you by Monarch. Let's be honest, most of us can't name all of our financial accounts, let alone what they're worth. Between 401ks, savings, and investments, it's easy to lose track, and that can mean leaving money on the table. That's why I started using Monarch. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. It's helped me keep organized of all the accounts, track my spending, and get a better handle on my investments without ever having to touch a spreadsheet. and you can review things with your partner, see your shared goals, and make better financial decisions together. Monarch visual dashboards and smart tools make it so much easier to understand where your money is going and how it can work harder for you. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKDOWNNHL at monarch.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarch.com, code LOCKDOWNNHL for half off your first year.
Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morassutti with you. As always, again, you can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast wherever you get your podcasts and also on YouTube. So the Maple Leafs, it's a back-to-back this weekend. They've got the Washington Capitals tonight, and then they got to deal with Sid and Gino and the crew and Kyle Dubas's Pittsburgh Penguins tomorrow. I think that's pretty much what would add fuel to the fire, right? If they lose tonight and then they lose to Dubas's Penguins tomorrow, they fall to 2 games under 500, and we're now a couple games after Thanksgiving. It'll be 25 games into the season at that point. Man, will it be loud on Monday. So they got to make sure that they're prepared to play tonight. And I think that the Pittsburgh game is almost more important than the whole, like, Washington's a good team. Pittsburgh, the Penguins, they should be able to beat. No?
They already did, right? That
Right.
was one of their. It wasn't their most complete game because they looked like absolute trash.
That was the massive 3-goal comeback.
That was right, but that was hopefully we thought that was going to be the jumping off point for this team.
Yeah,
and it didn't happen at that point. But you're kind of hoping that, I think Pittsburgh, they've been kind of up and down since they're like, everyone thought, oh, this is a resurgence for the Penguins. They're going to be back where they were supposed to be, right? Everyone was like,
I don't think anyone thought that, Dave.
Gino is performing at a high level still. Sid, they were all giddy about Justin Brazo and certain guys. It's again, they've had I think it was a bit of a easy schedule for them in terms of some of the games that they played, especially recently. Like, look at the teams that they've beaten, or they beat. The Sabres, they lost to the Preds, which I don't know about you, but that usually should be a bit of a call to say, yeah, maybe not. I think they won. They were
it was a back-to-back. So they lost in overtime, and then they shut them out the following night. But I mean, they've lost 5 of the last 7 games here. They're starting to kind of starting to pick up L's, but they're really struggling to score right now, which is kind of the big issue with this team. Like, you look at a lot of these losses, right? 2-1, 3-2, 2-1. They lost 5-0 to Minnesota, 3-2 to the Kraken. So they're struggling putting the puck in the back of the net. So Toronto, hopefully they can give them, that similar struggle and, keep it a low scoring game. I think that's kind of how Toronto needs to win a lot of these games anyways right now. They don't necessarily have guys to go out there and win a 6-4 hockey game. So they can win this one 2-1, 3-2. I think that's pretty much in line with how Toronto's going to win a lot of their games. So limiting their offense is on paper a tough thing to do when they've got Gino and Sid and it's kind of Brian Rust, I guess, still a very good player. But if you can limit those guys, you can definitely pick off 2 points here against Pittsburgh.
I think so. I think this is I know that the Leafs have had a hard time in Pittsburgh, especially with Dennis Hildeby. And was it Dennis Hildeby in net that time that they got absolutely shelled in Pittsburgh?
When have they been? So they lost last year. They won 5-2 in overtime in Pittsburgh, but they lost 5-2, or they won 6-5 rather, and then lost 5-2 earlier in the season. And then they lost 3-2, 4. They won 4-1. They've actually done decent in Pittsburgh. Are you talking about the Wilkes-Barre Scranton game 4 years ago, 3 years ago?
That's what I'm thinking of. I remember that 6-5 overtime game being very frustrating because nobody wanted to play defense that night.
Yes, correct. Correct.
I mean, it could very well be that type of game again.
They've won 3 of the last 5 in Pitt. We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see. Yeah.
Okay.
I think the power play, though, needs to get going here. and they'll be debuting a new power play this weekend. And it's not necessarily the personnel has changed a whole lot, but the philosophy has kind of changed quite a bit. And I think that is going to be very interesting to watch this weekend. So let's pull up the Maple Leafs power play. Mark Masters tweeted this out at practice yesterday. So they're going to roll with a 5-man unit. And this 5-man unit is what we're going to see for tonight's. And we saw the 5-man kind of get debuted in Columbus. We saw it a little bit. But this one is more so centered around Austin Matthews at the point, which is going to be different. So you got Matthews at the point being the kind of the quasi quarterback, taking over the Mitch Marner role for all intents and purposes. And then I believe in practice they had Domi and Michelli in that spot on the flanks because Nylander, missed practice for maintenance day. He'll play tonight. He'll play tomorrow. Assuming he doesn't get hurt tonight, knock on wood. So he'll be on the flank along with Easton Cowan getting an opportunity on the first power play unit, which is pretty, I think that speaks to how much trust that he's been given here by Coach Berube, or he's earned from Berube, where he's like, I think this guy can get it done on the power play for us and help turn the ship around. So it's going to be Matthews up at the point. You're going to have on the flanks Cowan and Nylander, and then Nyes, net front, and Tavares in that bumper position. What do you make of kind of the change here, Dave?
I mean, at this rate, I don't think we can be too picky about changes to the power play because it has not looked good.
No, got to try everything, right? Got to.
Power play was the one thing that kind of kick-started things looking a little better last year because it wasn't good last year until they did that change. So I do think that they needed to do something. They needed to get themselves looking a little more. What's the best way to put it? I guess showing a little more urgency, but also just they can change players around. That's fine, but until they actually like change the way they're playing a bit, which is being a little more, I wouldn't say selfish, but guys shooting the puck more and not just passing it off all the time because they've been guilty of that.
Well, this should allow Matthews to handle the puck a lot more, right? So you're putting the puck on your best player's stick to kind of handle the power play, to quarterback the power play. So theoretically, that'll make things way different because it feels like it was too predictable. Teams were taking him kind of out of the play on the flank. They're like, you're not passing the puck over here, so you can play with it on the other side with Nylander and Riley, and maybe throw Tavares in there as a little bump pass from time to time. But we're taking this option away from you guys, and that's kind of what we've seen and why this power play has not had a lot of success because Matthews has not been able to get much off and get opportunities. So now you put him up top and you probably wish he was a little closer to the net. Like I don't love him up there, but I do like the fact that he'll have the puck on his stick. And look, Matthews
more room top, right? I think that's really what it is, right? Like seeing it in Columbus a bit, like he's got more room to move around. You put him on the right side, you're just isolating him there, and the penalty killers are going to be able to get in a better position to block his shot or get into his passing lane. You have him at the point. I think it could be as much. A team is now not going to be able to just focus on Austin Matthews at the point because then they'll leave for also other opportunities around as well. That's kind of just the way I see it. Is maybe it'll just open up a little more room for him to navigate.
Yeah, absolutely. That's part of it. And Matthews has the most deceptive shot in all of hockey, also. And for years it's been a problem getting shots through from the point on the power play. Has been an issue, right? And I think that's something he should be able to do. And whether he's able to rip it from the point himself or is able to sift it through and, create a rebound at the very least and allow Nyes and Matthews to kind of do their thing in and around the net, I think that could also be, something we see happen a little bit more often as well. If not, taking floaters with traffic in front and try and get it, obviously try and score, but if not, bang away at rebounds. So excited to see what this new unit can do. Hopefully it can lead to a turnaround because last year, it's interesting. I was looking at the numbers, and the underlying numbers aren't that different from a season ago. Like, yeah, the Maple Leafs won the division, and the numbers were great. They scored a lot, and they had pretty solid goaltending, so they didn't allow a lot of goals. Well, the goaltending has not been great this year, and the power play has been abysmal. Well, now they're getting the goaltending. We saw that come to life and work out for them in Columbus. If they can get the power play going, now you're cooking. Now the Maple Leafs are getting back to what worked last season. And obviously it was a great year for them. Regular season, that is, did not finish the way they wanted to. We'll see how April works out when we get there. But at least they got to try something different, and we'll see if it works out. If it does, I think we'll continue to get a look at it this way. If not, back to the drawing board for Mark Savard. It's his job to figure out how to get this power play working, and this is just an option they had, and they're going to look at it and see if it works. If not, back to the drawing board. All right, buddy. I think that'll do it for us here today. Anything else you want to get into?
No, I think we'll see if they can get the job done. It's an important weekend.
Very important weekend. All right, that'll do it for us today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti, and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. We'll be back with another episode for you guys on Monday. Enjoy the games this weekend in Washington tonight, in Pittsburgh tomorrow night. Go Leafs, go. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.